You're listening to Old Timey Crimey, crimes from the golden age of yesteryear. Now, here are your hosts, Christy, Amber, and Scott.
Hey, it's Old Timey Crimey. I'm Christy.
I'm Scott.
And I'm Amber.
And we are here this week with your weekly dose of historical true crime, going back into the pages of yesteryear to see what kind of badness we can pull out of them. And we have quite the badness for you this week.
Your grandparents were sick fucks.
All of ours were. But no, I really think my grandparents were wonderful people. I just feel like I should state that.
Half and half. Half and half with my family.
So, but before we get started, I just want to let you know that we are having so much fun over on the Patreon. So much fun. Amber currently is having so much fun trying to open up her bottle of Coke without it making noise, and she's giving me a funny look. So that was good times as well. Oh, now she's sticking her tongue out. This is creepy. So
no, keep going.
We have it's close to 80 old tiny crimies, which are not super tiny. They range from 15 to 40 minutes. It's really the length of the crime that dictates the length of the episode. But
that's what she said.
We actually recorded 2 this week because of reasons, and we had a great time talking about both of them. Scott told us about a man that was an absolute badass and did a thing that you would never believe. And I told Scott and Amber a crime that you will not find on any other podcast. You will not find it on any blog. And there's no write-ups of it on any of the crime websites. So we are the first to hit this one. And it also involves a gentleman from this week's episode that we're going to be talking about today. So you should really come over there and check that out. That is patreon.com/oldtimeycrimey. And it's $5, and you get 5 bonus episodes a month. That's 4 tinies. And then our extra, which we also recorded today because we're doing all the recording. And that we did, as Amber had in the header of her notes, pirate bitches. And they are some badass women that we talked about. We had a really good time there, too. So we're having a lot of fun in a lot of places that you need to be having fun with us, is what I'm saying.
Any of you fuckers steal my idea for a website, I'll come and hunt you down. Or come and get me, and we'll make the website together. I came up with a great name.
Yes, you did. It's brilliant. It made Amber's completely stop in her tracks. I was trying to forge ahead, and Amber was like, wait.
Go back.
We need to talk about this website. Does it exist? If not, can I make it?
It was parked free by GoDaddy, and it was like, shit.
Might need to make this happen. So yeah, come on over, check that out. Link is in the show notes, and you can have a lot of fun with us. You also get a shout out at the end of the show. I will sing your name. Amber will moan it, or Scott will scream it erotically, I think is what we settled on. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So
George Stevenson! Oh!
Exactly.
George, that was a freebie.
That's what you can look forward to. And it's your choice, honestly. None of us will be offended if you don't pick the other ones. And honestly, I'm not always thrilled with my singing. So especially with people's names, it's actually kind of hard to sing people's names.
Sometimes they have a music name. Robert Kelker Kelly.
I mean, sometimes, yeah, but the thing is with, sources vary wildly. You see what you just did?
Yeah.
You did it exactly like I did sources very wildly. Not everybody has a name that matches up syllabically.
That's the only
sources very wildly.
It's the only tune I know. Yeah. I have a degree in music.
And all he knows is sources very wildly.
My major was percussion, okay? I didn't need to know that shit. I just needed to go... And people would play along with that. I was a metronome with teeth and hair.
So, we will be talking this week about a barrel murder.
The first dead body to go over Niagara Falls in a barrel.
Yes, exactly, yes. That's precisely what it is. All right, for some reason, I have 1907 in my notes, but my brain is saying 1903. Are my notes correct, or is my brain correct?
Your brain's correct.
Okay, so yeah, it was just a transposition of the keyboard or something. So, April 14th, 1907, we have Francis Connors.
Excuse me, 1900 what?
Sorry, 1903. It was on the page. 1903, Francis Connors. This is a woman who works in a restaurant. She was heading to a bakery in Manhattan. around 5:30 a.m. I don't know if it's Manhattan proper, if it's like the Bowery or in that area, but New York. We'll say New York City. She's in the area of 11th Street and Avenue D, which a description from The Sun tells us is, quote, in the heart of the Gas House District and just a block to the west are a number of Italian saloons. And from that point to 2nd Avenue, Italians are almost the only occupants of the tenement houses and stores.
Now, what date did you say that was? What was the month?
April?
Okay. For some reason, my brain said February. No. It is April, but
Okay.
my brain heard you say February, which means it's my new medication that's making me loopy.
Or I said February and I'm the one who's loopy. I don't know. Now I'm questioning myself. Are you gaslighting me?
I might be gaslighting myself.
Just so we're clear, it is April of 1903.
Yes.
Perhaps the world's worst April Fool's joke.
Yes. Yes, because this is what happens. Frances herself said, I went to the bakery at 5:30. Around 11th Street, I saw the barrel standing just beyond the curb as though it had fallen from a Long Island truck farmer's wagon. There's also a bunch of lumber there that had been left out on the sidewalk, as the newspaper said, for seasoning. This is how we're seasoning our lumber, apparently, I guess.
So whenever you season lumber, at least the way we used to do it with me and my father, to really get good lumber for use in construction, you can't just cut down a tree and use that lumber immediately. You have to cut it down and you let it dry out. It's called seasoning. So whenever you season lumber, whenever the Mort family would season lumber, we would cut down a tree and then we would paint the ends of it with white paint so that it would go out quicker through that, and then you risk splitting the log. So if we were going to build like a little log cabin in the woods, we would paint that end with white paint to seal the moisture inside, and then it would be about 12 to 18 months until that lumber was good to use for construction.
These people are really putting a lot of trust in their fellow citizens to just season the lumber right there on the street for 12 to 18 months, possibly.
Well, quite honestly, what good is it without? You know, it's not really good for anything. You're going to have to take it and season it yourself.
I'm just saying storing it somewhere else, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was that lumber, and there was also a coat tossed over the barrel. This from Frances Connors again. It was the coat which caught my eye. That will make a nice scrub rag, I said, and out into the street I stepped and took hold of it. Just as I lifted it, I saw a human head sticking up. Beside it was a man's foot.
Ew.
Yeah, so this is a slightly late and also terrible April Fool's joke for her.
I don't know why, but whenever I read that quote from her, I read it in the style of whenever the Monty Python members would behave as women. And I saw the coat sitting out there, and I thought, well, I love the scrub rag that would make. And then I lifted it up, and there was a head and a foot.
To be fair, the drawing of her in the Evening World, I think it was, kind of did look like a Monty Python member dressed up as a woman.
Yeah.
I don't think they did her any favors with that.
That may be where it came from in my head. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have pictures for you that I'll put up on the drive so that you can see that exact picture that I'm talking about on our social media, Facebook and Twitter, Old Timey Crimey.
Yay.
Her reaction to this was, well, I certainly did scream.
Someone threw away a perfectly good Italian man.
There was a man walking slowly down the other side of the street. He came back to me. I could not speak, only point to the barrel. He lifted off the coat, and there was the dead man. I went on my way as the sight sickened me. It was just gray dawn at the time and raining slightly. If the barrel had been left there only a few minutes before I discovered it, the men who put it there took big chances. So this was a sugar barrel, and the police arrived. They removed the corpse from the barrel. The body was still warm. Rigor mortis had not set in yet, so yes, they had left that barrel there fairly recently. And according to the Evening World, the man in the barrel, so it was a man, was 5'9", medium weight, splendidly developed, 35 to 40, dark skin, black mustache, curly black hair, and in their words, an Italian of the better class.
Actually, the New York
racism
Times
is baked right in.
Yeah. The New York Times had a much more flattering description of him. They said he was evidently a foreigner, a Greek or Armenian or Italian, and about 35 years old.
Yeah,
That was much more flattering.
They
Yeah.
also noted that his manicured nails and good garments indicated that he was probably pretty wealthy.
Yeah.
So probably not, a day laborer of any kind. Probably somebody, maybe like worked in an office or something along those lines. Which, interesting that was anyhow. So
This is whenever the police, it didn't take long for the police to go, we're looking for somebody whose last name ends in a vowel.
exactly, yes. And then they described his clothing. His clothing indicated that he was a man of fair means. He wore a black overcoat, coat and vest of brown tweed, black and white striped trousers, a blue check shirt, white turned-down collar with green and black check, four-in-hand tie. He had black lace shoes. And as far as objects he had on him that might give us some clue, he had a silver link watch chain in his pocket, no watch on that chain, a rubber date stamp, a heavy brass crucifix in his vest pocket, and also on him he had 1 cent. So.
Well, no watch. Well, I wonder who has the time.
Yeah! He even mimed the sunglasses thing there, folks. Okay, it happened. So another thing they find on him is a little piece of paper with some writing on it in Italian. Now, this was mostly burned, but they were able to translate what they could read, and it said something along the lines of "come at once." So it also seemed to smell of perfume, although I know he hadn't been dead that long, but the paper's been in the barrel with the body, and there was also a little bit of trash in there and stuff. I don't know how they were like, oh, this paper definitely smells of perfume. Everything's going to be intermingled.
Yeah.
If that's
yeah.
perfume, it's really rotten perfume.
That's some Hannibal Lecter nose shit.
Yeah, right?
So you had Chianti 3 days ago. I smell you have the beginnings of stomach cancer.
So the detectives thought that a woman might have, quote, decoyed him to his death. So
Isn't that what women do?
Now we gotta blame a woman.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because usually.
He had been stabbed many times. Most reports say 18, some reports say 20, but the cause of death was that his throat had been cut. He was practically decapitated. It was one of those situations. There were no bruises, despite the fact that, according to the Evening World, the man had been held by the arms and legs while the friends who did him to death tortured him with these stabs in the left side of the neck, and finally finished off their victim by the great gashes on the right side of the neck, which severed the jugular vein and the windpipe. I'm just going to hold on to my throat for a minute.
She's actually doing it.
I actually am. I did when I read that and when I typed it too. It's hard to type with one hand. So, now the thing is, all this stabbing and cutting, no blood on the barrel, no blood on his clothes. Investigators suspected that the body had been washed and redressed in new clothes between the murder and the disposal. So actually, the clothes can't necessarily give us a clue as to who he is, most likely, but they might give us a clue as to who the murderer is. So, the investigation begins, and it starts with the supervisor of the Detective Bureau, Chesty George McCluskey.
Oh, yeah, where's Mulholland?
Now, we talked about Chesty George in the Tiny this week, another case that he was involved in. And so I'll give you the lowdown on him. Now, first of all, he was at the scene by 7 a.m., so within an hour and a half of Francis finding the body. And he did give the case to Joseph Petrosino, who was called by the Evening World the Italian detective. So there's just one, apparently. If we can really just narrow it down, you've got the Italian detective, we got the Irish detective, we've even got an Armenian detective,
Yeah.
But
So,
they gave him a lot of the Italian cases because he was also an Italian immigrant.
and he knew the world.
And he knew the language, too.
Oh, yeah, that helps.
And let's face it, you're probably going to talk to somebody who's speaking Italian to you in the Italian neighborhoods. Some guy that comes up in here, oh, what you see over here, matey? No, you're not going to speak to him.
Yeah.
It was the Smurf detective that really didn't get a lot of work. I've smurfed that the murderer is Smurf. God damn it, again!
This is not going to hold up in court.
We don't know who the fuck you're talking about, you little blue bastard.
So, but McCluskey, Chesty George, he was also known as Gentleman. He had at one point been the youngest inspector on the force. This is how he got that nickname, okay? So around 1900, the police chief at the time had actually demoted him which not because Chesty George was doing bad work, but because the police chief was like, I really don't like that this guy seems to be right about to bust up my $3 million gambling ring that I've got going on. And when he did that, the chief said, I'll put a man in charge of the detectives bureau that people can talk to. McCluskey is too chesty to be of any use. Chesty George, that's what he is. Chesty both referring to his manly looks and the fact that he dressed like a dandy. So.
Ooh.
Also, if you go back to episode 104, Magnificent Pork Sword, the Roland Molyneux episode, Chesty George did a lot of the evidence gathering and performed the arrest in that case. I don't think we quite caught on to him because we would have made a lot of hay with that name as we have been doing.
He might not have been referred to as Chesty quite yet.
Yeah, you're right. It might not have been happening yet. So I might not have had that impetus to look him up because as soon as I saw Chesty George, I was like, I'm looking this guy up.
It's a real shame he didn't go by Pork Sword McCloskey at that point.
Would have had a lot more ladies.
Yeah, I bet he had enough ladies.
I think he did, yes. He was quite the looker and quite the dresser. So he got attention.
He got quite the gentleman, I'm sure.
Mhm.
So now the thing is that this was not a new thing, finding a barrel with a body in it in the city. Barrels would be left on a corner or in an alley or shipped to another city to a fictional address with a dead body inside.
I was honestly surprised how often this happened.
Yeah.
I went to Wikipedia, I just typed in barrel murders, and instead of getting the barrel murder of 1903, what I got was the history of barrel murders.
Exactly, yeah. It was an actual thing. This was the kind of the method of execution for the mafia. And it started in the 1870s. The Provenzano family in New Orleans was actually thought to have started this. Episode 112, not a mushroom. So
I can't tell. We should kind of have a contest between Amber and I. Who's been responsible for the most side names to the show?
It's you.
It's got to be you, yeah.
I think Amber's right. If it is me, Amber's got to be right on my heels.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, I started after you, so.
Yeah, we'll take it from the time you started.
obviously,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. We'll do that contest sometime, and the prize will be a shiny nickel.
I want a pork sword.
A pork sword.
I bet you do, you slut.
You're getting a mushroom, bitch.
I'll take a mushroom.
So
You can work with that.
now the thing is that other killers kind of glommed onto this, and they were like, well, if I kill somebody and I put him in a barrel, the police will automatically assume it's a mafia hit, and then they won't be looking for me. So that was another thing that kind of did tend to cause some more kind of chaos and distraction, was the fact that you didn't just have the mafia doing it. You had other people being like, oh, hey, there's an idea.
We really need to make this look like the mafia did it. So what I need you to do, I want you to kill Steve. And I want you to write a little note that just says, spicy like a gabagoo. I don't know what that means. Throw it in there, and maybe a receipt from Pizza Hut. That'll work.
Absolutely. So in this case, actually, they were sure. It was a mafia hit. They were sure from the start, not even because of the barrel alone. A detective said, one of the reasons we think the murder is the work of the mafia is that 2 scars on the side of the man's face indicate he had been in trouble before. Then the fact that the body was not disposed of points to the mafia. Members of that society never conceal the bodies of their victims. They want them to be horrible examples. Now, the not disposed of, okay, but the 2 scars, anybody can have 2 scars. You can get scars from anything.
There's a big difference between like the scar on my toe
Mm-hmm.
and what would be like somebody legitimately putting a knife to somebody's face.
Yeah, I get that.
Like the scar on my toe is ugly, it's jagged, it's not nice to look at. But you see somebody who has, I have a friend who actually, he's not quite sure what happened because whatever happened, his parents did it to him as a kid. But he has a scar running down the side of his face. Just looks like the plastic seam on a Barbie doll head.
Ah.
You know, it's pristine. It was intentional. It was done surgically. Like a toe, yeah, my toe is just jagged and ugly.
Because you stepped on glass, which is a whole different thing than having possibly a knife.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they should have specified that it was because of the type of scar, but the detective wasn't super specific, so that left, me 118 years later being like, hey now, detective, I don't know. So,
I read that in Germany it was actually fashionable to give yourself a dueling scar.
ah,
And the way you would do it, you would take a straight razor that you shaved with, cut yourself about 1/4 of an inch deep on the face, then take a horse hair from the tail of a horse, put in it, and put it so that it would get like puffy and swollen up. The horse hair would irritate it and kind of give it like the cool little dueling scar and really make it stand out.
that's also how you get an infection and die.
Yeah, it
I
wasn't.
mean, just go do a damn duel if you're going to do that.
Yeah, seriously.
So,
Cut me in the face. Like, not too deep. I just want the scar.
Chicks dig scars.
chicks dig scars. They also found 4 handkerchiefs along with the man in the barrel, which they said the killers had wiped their hands on, so they're probably bloody. And one of them was a woman's and heavily perfumed. Definitely a woman in here somewhere. They had thousands of people come from Little Italy to see if they could ID the body. On the first day, they had no luck. They were already, the day of the murder, getting ready to link the barrel itself to the mafia. The detectives said the shavings and other litter in the bottom of the barrel evidently came from a cafe. Italians do not use sawdust in saloons, but they do in cafes. The woman's handkerchief indicates that the barrel probably came from a cafe. And to that I say, blue paint, blue pants, guilty!
Yes.
Which, if you listen to the last episode, you'll know what that means. But we also get stomach contents. We hardly ever see that, guys.
Somebody really did their homework on this case.
Yeah, the coroner actually did work, which we'll run into him later, and we have reason to admire him already. So the contents of the dead man's stomach showed that he had eaten heartily a short time before death of peas and other food. Well, it's 1903. We can't expect him to be more specific than peas and other food. To be obtained, as a rule, in Italian restaurants. Do you see why I'm giving the detectives the side eye a little bit here with these descriptions?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't get peas and other food in any other restaurants but Italian restaurants. Those are the only ones that serve peas and other food.
If it would have been artichokes, I would have said, well, let's hold on.
Yeah.
But peas, yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it's just absurd. But sometimes people phrase things in ways that they regret later.
I have a joke that I can't say.
That's fine.
Like, it's got to be bad if Scott's like going, I can't say that.
Yeah, and he gave like a kind of a quiet like, damn, but silent, but he did the head motion of like, I wish I could.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'd get kicked off this podcast.
Best not then.
Yeah.
They put the time of death at around 2:30 a.m. and the barrel placement at 4:30 a.m. The latter part they figured out from the fact that the coat wasn't, the coat that had been draped over the barrel, it wasn't terribly wet, but there had been a rain, like it was a light rain going on. But there's some interesting back and forth about that the next day. A local woman was like, yeah, I saw the barrel at 4:30 a.m., but a patrolman who was in the area was like, no, I checked that pile of lumber for sleeping tramps at 5:15, and there was no barrel. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what he said. According to The Sun, it is believed that when Sergeant Bauer was poking around in the lumber for tramps, the murderers, with their burden, were close to him, waiting for him to get away so they could rid themselves of the victim's body. The Sun then goes on to say that they were probably heading to the river, but the cops scared them off, so they left the body there and hightailed it away. And the location of the barrel was really close. It was like a block from the river. Like if you look on the maps today, there's like a big park there, but it's about the size of a block. It's not far. So they abandoned ship there.
It seems like if they were going to toss somebody in the river, they would have just like encased them in cement and tossed them.
Yeah, putting them in a barrel seems like they probably weren't heading to the river.
No.
You don't throw somebody in the river in a barrel.
Yeah.
You just, the cement blocks, the cliche,
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, for a long while before this, there had been an entirely separate operation going on parallel to the police investigation, and it's been going on for over a year. This is run by William Flynn of the U.S. Secret Service.
Our man Flynn.
Our man Flynn. It's a surveillance operation on the Morello gang, specifically its leader, Giuseppe Morello. Secret Service was involved here because the Morello gang was known to be involved in counterfeiting. And so they'd been having surveillance on members of the gang for a while, and In the process, they saw a little something that was related to this murder case. The Morello gang interacting with an individual who was unknown to the Secret Service in a butcher shop the night before the barrel was found.
That was his first mistake, meeting him at the butcher shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Just go into the place where they have all the tools to get rid of you.
right, exactly. So this is from Flynn. The man evidently suspected his fate, for he was extremely nervous while my men were watching him in the butcher shop. Morello and two other men, Genova and Pecoraro, were talking together in the rear of the store. He was posted near the front, presumably to act as lookout. That was the only time he was allowed to be alone. My men noticed him about noon, and for the rest of the day, while the gang met and separated a dozen times in as many different places, he seemed to be kept under close surveillance. A man walked on either side of him, sometimes locking arms with him. So this is somebody who's kind of in their trap and doesn't know how to get out, is what I read. So Flynn's men see about this murder, and they're like, oh, maybe this is connected. So they go to the cops, and they decided to work together. The Secret Service men who'd been posted on surveillance, they're able to ID the body as the man they'd seen with the Morellos the night before, but they still don't know his name, So they're like, yeah, we saw that guy. Don't know his name. Can't help you out there. So helpful? Sort of. So they also say they know where the murder happened, and that's 226 Elizabeth Street, which is currently home to Aesop, upscale shop for skincare and fragrances.
Ooh, does Gwyneth Paltrow run that bullshit?
It sounds like it, right?
Vagina-scented candles.
And that's about a 1.4 mile walk, or about half-hour walk from where the barrel was found. Or it's possible that it was the butcher shop, really, which was 16 Stanton Street, which now just looks like an apartment building. It's nothing fun that we can blame on Gwyneth Paltrow, so it's boring.
We can blame everything on Gwyneth Paltrow. It's boring because of you, Gwyneth.
Yes, right? Goop. So McCluskey is really looking at the Morello Mafia for this, and he goes whole hog here. On April 15th, so the very day after the barrel was discovered, they arrest 8 men all at once in the Bowery. It's this whole big operation where they're waiting for the men to be at the same place at the same time, and you'll find out in a minute why they're so determined to get them all at once. Then 4 more the next day they arrest. In the paper, they're saying, oh, we'll release some in the next few days, but really they keep all of these men and then grab 1 or 2 more over the next little while. So supposedly the Morellos were resisting arrest pretty badly, so there had to be some violence to get them in line. I'm sure that was not in any way gratuitous, like slamming heads into pavement or knocking them out with a blackjack/baton from the New York Times. There was a hard fight, but the detectives, powerful ones, threw the prisoner to the sidewalk, and beating their heads on the stones, they weakened them so that they were submissive. Now, the thing is that the authorities had previous experience with Morello and the others, especially Flynn. In 1900, he and his men arrested Morello for some other shit, probably more counterfeiting shit. And here it is. A quote from Flynn: Morello's wife made herself extremely unpopular with us by drawing a wicked knife. It took 2 of us to get it away from her.
I think we found out what happened to the other 4 fingers on that hand.
Right? So then after she...
He never forgot her birthday again.
After they got the knife away from her, she took some letters that were black hand letters, like the mafia assassination kind of thing, and stuffed them into the baby's clothes.
Jesus.
And also, when they came into the apartment, it was nighttime. Morello and his stepbrother were sleeping in the same bed. Morello had 4 guns under his pillow, and his stepbrother had 5. So, 1 bed, 2 men, 9 guns.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Joey had a nightmare and bucked his head a little bit and shot the other one in the face.
Right?
Jesus.
This is a relatively small Italian family. There's only between half brothers and Giuseppe, there's only maybe 4 or 5. Maybe it was because they all slept with guns under their pillows and accidentally shot each other in their sleep.
Yeah.
So now
I was just gonna pee!
Now, supposedly, good old Chesty McCluskey had paddy wagons all set up to pick up the arrestees. I'm sure he filled out all the paperwork and had that all ready to go. But the paddy wagons didn't show up. I don't know what happened. Some wires must have gotten crossed. So, gee whiz, I guess we're going to have to parade these men here through Little Italy, almost as an example.
Well, I mean, let's be honest here. that's what the mafia understands.
Yeah.
Doing things by example.
Sending a message.
Exactly. They put this guy in a barrel. They tortured him to make him an example.
Mm-hmm.
So the police, just the same way that, like, in the Untouchables, one of them puts one of your guys in the hospital, you put another one of theirs in the grave.
Yeah.
So you're gonna kill somebody and leave the body sit out. We're gonna parade you through and make you fucking embarrassed.
But the thing is that this was kind of at least one of, if not the first times that this happened. The perp walk, we call it now.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't necessarily a thing so much then because you had the paddy wagons. You just pick them up in the paddy wagons. So for all we know, we don't know for sure. So rampant speculation. Chesty McCluskey was like, I need you to bring the paddy wagons down. Don't bring the paddy wagons down. I want to embarrass them. So for all we know, he was the first to institute the perp walk in any real meaningful fashion. Some said the reason that they did this was also that, we didn't necessarily do this in America, but it was said that the Italian police did this, did the perp walk. So, again, speaking their language in more ways than one. The thing is that this did not have the intended effect. There was a large crowd gathered, but it ended up kind of messing things up a little bit. The cops were worried that the crowd would actually try to free the mafia men because it looked like they could be really overrun and outnumbered. So they're busting up the crowd some. This particular fact took the attention off of the mafia men who were being arrested from the police. So Flynn and McCluskey had a little tension later because Flynn criticized McCluskey for giving the mafioso this chance to line up all their stories. Like, oh, hey, while they're worried about the crowd, we were all at the cafe, at 9, and we have our alibi, blah, blah, blah. Essentially that. So they take them to court. It was soon noticed in court that about a half a dozen of the men wore identical rings.
Ooh, Freemasonry.
Yes. Well, it was a snake design on the rings.
So, Illuminati.
Really, yeah. But the same one on each of them. And then the Evening World gives us this little news flash. Examination of the papers and letters found in the room of the suspects has revealed the existence of a secret society of Italians with branches in all the large cities of the United States. And yes, I'm making fun because, but I still think they kind of knew the mafia was a thing. They were already speaking their own language with them. So surely, the Evening World, it can't be like, oh my God, there's a secret society of Italians at this point. It seems disingenuous.
Yeah.
It seems like they're trying to be like, we got the big scoop. And meanwhile, it's like, yeah, no, we know. But I must appreciate...
We didn't know they had matching jewelry.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I must appreciate the Evening World for its illustrations. They are something. This episode is sponsored by Wicked Cat Clothing.
In Italy, in the 1600s, Giulia Tofana sold poisonous tonics to help women escape bad marriages. Wink.
What an enterprising young woman.
Another enterprising but far less murderous woman, we think, is Stephanie Long, the creator and founder of Wicked Cat Clothing.
We love Stephanie's clothes and accessories.
Stephanie, much like us, adores Halloween.
And cats.
And the paranormal.
And she's bringing that aesthetic to her line of clothing at wickedcatclothing.com. I don't know about you guys, but I need that Bloody Mary shirt.
Personally, I'm dying to get a Not Every Witch Lives in Salem hoodie.
Wicked Cat Clothing doesn't just have shirts. There are socks, hats, laptop sleeves, more.
Swimwear and kids' clothes, too.
So go on over to wickedcatclothing.com and use the code OldTimeyCrimey30 to get 30% off.
That's code OldTimeyCrimey30 for 30% at wickedcatclothing.com.
The Evening World notes that a 13th man has been arrested and he lives suspiciously close to where the body was found. It's New York City. A lot of people live near where the body was found. I'm sorry. I'm also criticizing the reporters on this one because there's just a lot to criticize. There's a lot to work with. They're giving me too much material. So let's talk about some of the big names that were arrested here. I have, just so you know who I have information on, I'm going to be talking about Giuseppe Morello and Lupo the Wolf. Those are who I have info. And then a little bit later, I go into some detail on that other guy, the bodyguard dude, whose name escapes me at the moment.
I actually have like a listing here of everybody that was arrested.
Okay.
We have Giuseppe Morello. He was at the time 34. Tommaso Petto, 34, who was a clothing presser. Joseph Finaro, a merchant. Antonio Messina Genova, an importer. Lorenzo Lobido, a merchant. Vito Lobido, which is just a name I could say over and over and over, laborer. Domenico Pecoraro, a farmer. Pietro Inzarello, who was a confectioner. And the ones that didn't get caught, but they knew that were part of the gang, Vito LaDuca, but the reason why they couldn't arrest him, they just couldn't find him, but they knew he was part of the gang because of a recent arrest in Pittsburgh. And Vito Cacciaferro, but he had already fled the city.
So I have some information on two of the big names here, Giuseppe and Lupo. Tommaso Petto. Oh my God, I can't say his name. Tommaso Petto. There we go.
Yeah,
I got a
works.
little bit on him later, but yeah, because boy, was his arrest fun. So yeah, Giuseppe Morello was born May 2nd, 1867 in Corleone, Sicily.
No.
All right.
Sicily? A criminal coming from Sicily?
From Corleone.
Oh my God. That name sounds familiar.
They actually have a mafia museum there that I saw referenced in the city.
No such thing as the mafia.
Well, they're really trying to draw some light on it because I guess they still have some problems with it
There's no
occasionally.
mafia, there's no UFOs, and there's no Bigfoot.
No matter what the evening world says, there is no secret society of Italians.
I think that all three of those things exist.
So yeah, he had two nicknames, either the Old Fox or, of course, the Clutch Hand. Because as Scott is wickedly delighted about, he was born with a birth defect where his right hand had only one identifiable digit. That was the fourth finger, and the rest of them were kind of in a knot. So just kind of all like attached together.
A flesh knot.
Yes, it was. This may have affected how the people around him viewed him because left-handedness and evilness kind of had a tie in society. And you're wearing a shirt that says, "Let's summon demons." You can't really, you're not even exercising plausible deniability.
No, not trying either.
No, you're not.
Little fun fact, the old term for the direction of left is sinister.
Yeah.
So the word sinister actually comes from, it just means left.
I think we talked about that like ages and ages
Yeah.
ago, and I didn't believe you at first.
Sinister-handed.
Yes, the sinister path is the left-hand path. And everybody in magic who practices like Wicca and chaos magic, which I believe there actually is something to chaos magic. I believe there is something that you can do through chaos magic. Intention can actually change outcomes. But they call that path, the evil path, the selfish path, the left-hand path. There is something about the left. In fact, there's an old belief. I forget what religion it was, but if you wanted somebody to just burn in hell before you would kill them, you would seal their right eye with wax, because then only the left half of the soul could escape, and the left half of your soul belongs to Satan. The right half belongs to God.
Well, that sounds like a religion I want to follow.
Yeah,
Tell me more. Do you have a pamphlet?
absolutely. I've almost got this entire religion down. All I need before I start my cult is a zippy post-life experience, and I think we've got this.
And a name.
No, we got a name.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So,
We can't say it on the air.
Giuseppe Morello, he, of course, got into some mafia shit in Sicily. He was a member of the Corleone Mafia when he was younger. Fled to America after the unfortunate and badly timed deaths that happened to some local officials and witnesses who were trying to prosecute him. Total accidents that they were shot.
Oopsie doodle.
This is weird. We only found 6 fingerprints at the murder scene.
Now, a bunch of his family followed him to New York, and then they all spent some time in the 1890s in Louisiana because they had some relatives there. So they worked on a sugarcane plantation. Then they spent some time in Texas. But after malaria took some members of the family, possibly including his wife at the time, they headed to New York, where they did some legitimate business. But they also did a lot of illegitimate business too. Counterfeiting, extortion, the usual mafia shit. You know the story.
He had a wife? Wow.
He had more than one wife. Okay, so he had the one that might have died in Texas of malaria. He had the one who in 1900 was the one who pulled the wicked knife on Flynn and his compatriots. And then actually sometime soon after he was arrested, he separated from her and he had another thing going with another lady.
Just imagine the things he could do with that hand.
I don't know.
I mean, I've seen
he
like
was
the dragon
arrested.
dildos.
I'm just going to keep on going. So he was arrested for counterfeiting with a bunch of other mafia men in 1900. Like we said, that was the one that Flynn was involved with. They were all convicted. Giuseppe Morello was acquitted.
Can't say.